Good day everyone, I am Abigail Pangan and for today we are going to tackle about Timon of Athens, which is written by William Shakespeare during 1605 to 1608, and it is a play with 5 acts, and the genre of this play is a tragedy. So Timon of Athens romanticizes the fall of ancient Greek aristocrat Timon, whose fickle friends reject him when he runs out of money. So Timon is based on a historical figure described by Greek writer Plutarch in his lives of the noble Grecians and Romans during 100 CE. So for the characters, we have Timon, which is the high-ruling, gift-giving Athenian aristocrat and spends himself into bankruptcy. So he is the main character or our protagonist in the story or in the play. Next is Flavius, pragmatic, clear-eyed, generous, loyal steward, dispenses tough advice. Flavius here in the story or in the play Timon of Athens really shows how loyal and genuine he is to Timon. Next one is Alcibiades. Alcibiades is a wily politician and hot-headed military leader. Then we have Epimantus. So Epimantus is a surly, Cyric philosopher that sees the world as a den of frauds and criminals. Without further ado, let's discuss Timon of Athens using the Freytag's pyramid. So Act 1 basically fall on the introduction, and our introduction says that spendthrift Timon invites his friends to a lavish banquet. So in Act 1, the Athenian aristocrat Timon has built a reputation for lavish generosity. He is known on the Athens that a giver. So in a single scene, he bails an acquaintance out of a debtor prison, which is Ventigius, his friend. So gives a servant enough wealth to set up his own household and buys a costly jewel simply to give it away. So most of Athenians, including some who have given him money in the past, are pleased with Timon's extravagant gift-giving and cheer him on as he doles out presents to them as sign of friendship. So the sign of friendship for him is through giving. So a few see his generosity as unsustainable. So there is the surly philosopher Epimantus, chides of Timon for using his wealth to attract flatterers who are not loyal but parasitic. So he predicts that when Timon eventually falls from power, he will no gain friends anymore. So in the next scene, or in the scene 2 of Act 1, Timon throws a huge banquet. So to complete the banquet, it has the musicians and costumes dancers. And the guest of honors is Timon's old friend Alcibiades, which we have tackled about earlier in our characters. So as an Athenian general recently returned from a war, so Alcibiades is an Athenian general who returned from a war. So as the festival continue, Timon gives away jewels and horses, and the Athenian lords continue to toast his generosity. But meanwhile, Epimantus scoffs at Timon's foolishness, and Timon's steward Flavius, which is his loyal steward, frets about the great debts his employer is incurring. So at the height of feasting, Timon gives a misty-eyed speech about how lucky he is to have so many loyal friends. Next is the rising action. So Timon's spending and gift-giving ran him into a serious debt. So in Athens, Timon's creditors are growing skittish about his huge debts and carefree spending. So they send their servants to demand repayment, but Flavius puts them off. So, taking Timon aside, he explains the truly gravity of the financial situation. And Timon is shocked to discover he is in a serious debt. So, Timon's creditor mob him at his home. So, and Timon's supposed friends refuse his request for a loan. So, in this scene, um, Timon resolves to call upon his friends to help him pay off his loans, sending Flavius and 3 other servants to the home of wealthy Athenians. And, excuse me, now Timon's supposed friends showed their true colors. So when his servant approached them for help, each one finds an excuse to deny Timon the request money. So Timon requested a help from his so-called friends, and those so-called friends that he has denies asking his help or denies Timon's request. Acting on Flavius' advice, Timon shuts himself in house and stopped entertaining guests, but the creditors continue to send their servants and agents to him. So at last, he decides to invite all his former friends to one last banquet. So Timon offers a second banquet of water and stones. Excuse me. And Alcibiades is banished from Athens, swearing revenge. So Alcibiades, meanwhile, is banished from Athens for challenging the Senate's decision to execute one of his soldiers that time. So he vows to rally his army and get revenge against the city corrupt politicians. So turning his back on Athens, Timon curses his former home and goes to live in the woods near the sea. So Timon runs off to the coastal woods outside Athens. So with no one to pay them, his servants disperse, but Flavius remains loyal and seeks out his former master. So in the forest, while digging for roots to eat, this is the time Timon finds gold. Excuse me. Which he proceeds to give to Alcibiades, who visit him to fund his invasions of Athens. So Timon next has a long conversation with Epimantus about the miserable ingratitude of humankind. However, he drives the philosopher away so he can nurse his anger in private. So when bandits visit Timon's camp, he gives them some gold too, so hoping to spur them on and committing crimes against Athens and its citizens. Next, we have the climax. So Timon reunites with loyal Flavius, the only honest Athenian. So finally, Flavius arrives and offers Timon both his money and his service. And that time, Timon is touched by Flavius' loyalty but insists on being left alone. Next, we have the following action. So Timon begins preparing his own grave. The Athenian Senate seeks Timon's help preparing for war, and Timon dies off stage, leaving a grim epitaph behind. Excuse me. So, following action really starts on Act 5. So, Act 5 evolves having heard about Timon's gold. So, the Athenians come to offer their services to him, but he chased them away. Next, we have the resolution. So, with his army at Athens' gates, Alcibiades compromises. So, that time, Alcibiades arrives at the gate of Athens. So, the senator attempts to defend the city, explaining that not everyone in Athens insulted Alcibiades and Timon. And they ask that Alcibiades come into the city in peace without killing everyone. Alcibiades agrees and punished only those who have slighted himself and Timon. And then a soldier arrived with news that Timon has died, and Alcibiades reads his epitaph. So though he died thinking everyone hated him, and that time Alcibiades honors Timon, a man much more admired in Athens than what he believed. that's all for my discussion about Timon of Athens. Thank you.